Parma City Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring tonight's event. We really appreciate it. And those that are helping out, I would like to thank Lynn. Brent Cordes is here. Jonathan Fields is here helping out. Elizabeth and Terry in the back with some names. There may be one or two others that show up to help out too, but I would really like to thank everyone for their help this evening. For those that don't know, my name is Kurt Holman, and I'm a Parma City resident and involved in a lot of stuff. So I'm really excited to be here tonight and doing this. So how did we get here? I guess is the first question. One of my duties is I'm on the Blue Ridge School Board. We had gotten some of our recent enrollment figures, and they had declined, and there's been a steady decline. And so I posed a question on a Facebook page: how do we attract more families to the Blue Ridge School District, and therefore more families to the towns that make up the school district? So there was a long, lengthy discussion that went in a lot of different directions, which is fantastic in my opinion. And ultimately it came to, why don't we have a community meeting and start, instead of just making comments on Facebook or social media, that we take this to a community meeting and maybe do something about those things. So I guess that's why we're here. One of the other comments that I hear a lot is, from people in general is, gosh, I don't like to go to this particular municipality meeting because I don't feel like I can express myself, or I don't like to go to this school meeting, or I'm nervous about talking. So this isn't put on by any city, municipality, county, school. This is here for all of us to say what we'd like to say within reason, and with the intent that we're gonna move things forward. My assumption, obviously, is that as I look around, there are fantastic faces in this crowd. But my assumption that everyone is here is for the good of the community. We're not always going to agree on everything that gets discussed, obviously, and that's absolutely okay. That's not our point here. We want to have a great civil discussion. There are a few ground rules I guess I'd like to go over. Again, the one, if you know that you want to speak, please sign in. Although we're going to do this like a talk show, like the Oprah Winfrey show. So most people have told me that I'm going to come, but I'm really nervous to say something. I want to hear, and there's a lot of people that are here that want to hear what everybody has to say, that wants to say anything. So we're going to make that as comfortable as possible. We do have media here, and at their request, they did ask that you state your name prior to speaking. Okay. Again, we want all comments to be civil, professional, and general in nature, and not attacking somebody personally or a business personally. So, as an example, there's a big difference between I don't like Brent Cordes and I don't like the fact that this whatever. Okay. So looking around, I don't think that's going to be a problem, but in the event that would be the case, we do have some bouncers strategically placed. You may be asked. One of the other things, I guess, that so we can get kind of a show of support for certain comments. Obviously nobody's required to do this, but if you feel so moved, somebody makes a comment that you would like to clap, please do so. If you don't like somebody's comment, don't yell obscenities, don't yell any of those things. Just, maybe remain silent. Also, if there is a very specific, and I'm going to call this a lead. So, as an example, if somebody says, "Gosh, my cousin is in charge of Apple Computer, and they're thinking of moving their headquarters to a small Midwestern town," keep in mind this is going to be on videotape and in the newspaper. So if that is the case, Bruce Stauffer, if you raise your hand, she's the DeWitt County Development Director. Please talk to her, okay? So very, very specific ideas like that, or leads. we want to talk about this quietly, I guess. Okay, so up on the board, I wrote down a few things, and not all of these are necessarily things we have to talk about. But however, the main crux of what we want to talk about is how do we make our communities and school more attractive to new families coming to our communities, and existing families making the time that they live here, which hopefully is forever, as attractive as possible and positive as possible, and keep families from moving out of our communities. So I did have somebody ask me to give them what I do for full disclosure, because obviously I'm going to be making some comments, and if someone says, gosh, he didn't say he was a part of that, I want everybody to know what I'm a part of. So it is over here. And I'll be really quick with this. I'm on the DeWitt County Regional Planning Commission, which deals with zoning rules and laws. It also deals with variances. DeWitt County Regional Planning Commission did the DeWitt County Wind Ordinance, which is those big windmills. We wrote that. We also have done the County Comprehensive Plan. We're going to be finalizing that plan by the end of this year. I'm on the DeWitt County Development Council. Ruth, that I just mentioned to you, is our development director. The Development Council works with business development, attracting new businesses, as well as business retention and expansion of existing businesses, along with several other things, but those are the primary. I am on the Farmer City Chamber of Commerce, the Blue Ridge School Board, Gibson Area Hospital Advisory and Foundation Board. I do work with a lot of events. I use the word special interest planning here, and this is on a bigger than local. And I use the word special interest. We hear that in elections a lot, and people think that's negative, and in some ways it is. But we're all special interest, I guess. Whenever we want something, we became special interest. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities, I've met with them several times. My business background, I did graduate from the University of Illinois. The Commerce and Business Administration Department, my degree's in finance. Most of my career, though, has been in sales and as a business owner, but also sales management and marketing. So for full disclosure, that's who I am. And if after seeing my resume anyone wants to give me a great job, let me know afterwards. Okay. So where do we go from here? That's up to you, and it's up to this meeting. Okay? So I've had people say, gosh, we should do this regularly. Gosh, is this going to do anything? Gosh is, these other words than gosh. But where would it go from here really is determined by what happens tonight. Okay, the ideas that are presented tonight, we're gonna run with as many of those as we can. There is a strategic planning session with the school coming up in early November. So those of you that are interested in what happens at our school now and down the road, please make sure you attend that. And Susan, that is, I believe, the 3rd and 4th? 4th and 5th. Okay. So November 4th and 5th, it's 2 evenings. There'll be, in spite of the fact there's no food here, there will be a little bit of food. And, right?
There'll be a light supper.
Light supper. And it will be a great opportunity to discuss some school things and help plan the school's future. And again, just in general, we're going to move forward as appropriate. Okay? So with all that in mind, anyone like to start us off? Did we have any comment cards? No? Okay. So I'll start us off. So I guess the best question up there is, again, how do we make our communities and school more attractive to new and existing business? I'm sorry, new and existing families. So as kind of some points, there's things our communities do well. There are things our communities don't do well. We have community assets, community liabilities. Does anyone want to mention something that they really like about the community that they live in? Start with that. Start this on a positive note. Yes, sir. Just, again, if you'll state your name and...
I'm Richard Cleaver. I live on Main Street. Moved here in 2001. And I like the town because of the way it's located. It's centrally located between Bloomington, Champaign, Decatur, Gibson City. And I've always felt ever since I've been here, this town should be a hub for those cities, for businesses to be here to supply those other cities. That's something I think we could look into proposing. And you need businesses to get people to move to your community. If there's no jobs, there's no people. They move away.
All right. So a couple of key points. Location, centrally located, and between Champaign, Bloomington, some other towns. Interestingly, you know, a lot of the discussion I've had, centrally located between Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Peoria. There's a lot of hubs. And when we talk about that, just a real quick, if just by a quick show of hands, how many? I just want to get a concept of where everybody is from. If you're from Farmer City, if you'll raise your hand real quick. Okay, Mansfield and Bellflower. And anywhere else? I'm sorry, you currently live somewhere else?
No,
okay. Really? I didn't know. Okay. All right. Any other, anyone else want to comment on why they love the town that they live in? No? Yes. Kurt?
Oh, come on, you say. I know you can speak. I like the people. I've been a lot of different places in the central part of the country, and I've met a lot of different folks. And the people in the area here are really what make the difference. They're what really make it great to be here. That's why we decided to stay here.
So that was Kurt Bozark, by the way. The comment was the people. We love the people. How many people love the people? Most of their neighbors. Not to put anyone on the spot. They can raise their hand, by the way. All right.
Since we're having trouble getting anybody to talk,
Thank you, Tom.
I'll go back into our back a ways. Me and my wife moved here back in 70, late 60s. We lived here several years. We liked Farmer City. It was a good town. Had its problems like everywhere else. Farmer City has never wanted to grow. It's got to change that attitude. They've always resisted growth. They've had several opportunities for large companies to come into town, and they've ran them off. You can't do that. Not if you want to grow and you want to keep a good school. We moved away, and we're gone for, what, about 10 years. Or 20, whatever. And we had some good friends here in town. We're getting closer to retirement age. We decided we were living in a little town of Belfort. You know where that's at. We decided we wanted to move back to Farmer City because Farmer City had what we needed. It had a doctor, it had grocery stores, it had gas stations. It had what we needed at that time. It had a pharmacy. Hopefully we're getting another one. And some of the things that I've seen over the years here in Farmer City is, yeah, there's a bunch of good people in town. But it still has that little bit of a don't want to grow attitude. And you can't live with that attitude in this day and age. We had a chance for a factory to move in uptown, and people resisted it. If you all remember, it was a guy who was going to race tilapia. And the people resisted it. This man would have hired between 25 and 50 people. And, you know, you only listen to negative so long and you leave. We got a piece of property north of the interstate. That is good. Nothing is going to happen to that property, though, until the city gets utilities on it. Company comes by here wanting to look at a piece of property, they want it now. They don't want it a year from now. They want it now. If you don't have it, they go on down the road. I'm not knocking the city, I was on the board for a term. They do some great work. But that's one thing that they need to get done. I believe, Mayor's here, he can answer it, I believe TIF money can be used to put those utilities over there.
Not currently.
Pardon?
Not currently.
And we got to keep on topic here. Brainstorm session. This isn't where we air what's wrong with, question
Well,
anybody.
that's what this is.
We got to bring up just positive ideas. Not
That is possible. If they get that property,
Well, we'll write it down.
That
You're
is
right. That's
positive
absolutely
idea.
correct. You're bringing up
there's
some good
nothing
stuff.
gonna happen to it until they do something with it.
So we need that property shovel ready, and that is a good idea to put out there.
You have property out here on 54 in the housing, by the housing area, that is zoned commercial. Nothing has ever been done with any of that. I don't know of anybody even trying to do anything. That piece of property needs to be utilized. It's just, we've got a building on Main Street, we spend a lot of money on Main Street. You got a building sitting right on the corner of Main Street that's empty, the bottom half. Top half is not. They won't do anything with it. It's a prime piece of property. Something needs to be done with that. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but, you know,
Thank you very much.
any piece of property, we had a house here in town that the city was going to tear down. The fellow come in and said, I need some time to remodel it. The city fought him. They took him to court. He had to go to court to save the house. Well, if you go buy the house now, it's a very nice home.
That particular house has come along,
Yes.
has come a long, long way.
Yes.
Yep.
Was a piece of junk before. You know, you gotta work with people, but the whole town needs to change its attitude a little bit about the world. We need more houses. You want families to come in, they gotta have something to move into.
More homes. Yes, okay, let's go to this gentleman right here.
Thank you.
My name is Jeremiah Thompson. I have a couple of young children. I do think a strength of the community is the parks, and particularly the pool. And my understanding is the pool is something that does bring people in from out of town because there's not a huge number of public pools available. So I think that is a strength and something that we could potentially build on.
Very good. Thank you. Linda? Go. All right.
I was just wondering if there isn't some possible incentive that we could give to young families to come and build here. I mean, I think in Fisher, if I'm not mistaken, they have implemented some programs where if they build a house within a year and they pay a certain price, then they get I think it's $10,000 back after that first year to have built a house there. So I'm just wondering if there's a possibility that we could maybe work on some incentive to bring young families here, because that's your first priority, I think, is bringing people here. What good does it do to have businesses if you have no one coming into the businesses? And so I think that's where we need to focus more so than anything, is bringing families and housing for families here.
So, yeah, a quick comment on that. Prairie Ridge did offer incentives as well, and it was, I believe it was a $5,000 incentive if a home was built within 1 year's time, and a lot of communities do incentivize. I know Gibson City has a program. They actually give gifts to new residents that move into town. I mean, it's gift cards for local businesses, and they really support that as well. So that's a great idea. Prairie Ridge is Farmer City's new subdivision. That's correct. Yes.
Am I understanding that the school owns it? The school owns it, and so...
I don't know. Yeah.
someone needs to maybe get him to turn loose and maybe do some development there. I'm not a real estate person.
So, so the comment there is expand the existing Prairie Ridge subdivision for potentially newer homes. And then Linda Roth was the lady that spoke there. And we have some hands coming up. There's a gentleman in the back. Let's go there. By the way, we are going to get to some weaknesses too. So I know those sometimes are more fun to talk about. We're going to talk about those as well. Things we need to do better, but right now we'll keep going.
I'm Michael Madden. My wife and daughter and I just moved to town 10 days ago.
Hey, welcome to town.
And one of the things that we realized, we've been looking for housing for the last year and a half to find a good house and a good place to raise our family. I lived in Central Illinois my whole life, and we lived in Fisher for the last 6 years. We didn't know Farmer City existed when we were looking for homes, and it was only after the year and a half of frustration that I finally expanded my search from, we both work in Champaign, my search from 20 miles from Champaign to 25 miles from Champaign, and that extra 5 miles brought in Farmer City, and we found a house. It was the first night we looked at houses, we found a house here, and I think a concentrated effort for city officials to maybe meet with real estate agents in Champaign or Bloomington and just say, hey, if you have clients that are looking for homes that are within a half-hour drive of their work in Champaign, Farmer City is a good option.
Fantastic. So, first of all, again, welcome to town. Before that microphone gets too far, and I know it's only been 10 days, but tell me your impressions, early impressions of Farmer City. Very positive?
It has been positive. Everybody has been really friendly and really helpful. And when we were first looking for housing here, one of the things that really jumped out to us is it is way cheaper than Champaign County. And but then the second thing we noticed was, oh, the real estate taxes on this are a little high. But it was one of those where the housing was cheap enough that it evened out for us. But if it had been a little bit in the other direction, we might have decided not to do that.
Fantastic.
But the people have been very friendly so far.
And your daughter, is she in school?
She's 4, so she's in preschool at my work right now, but we're looking to move her here.
Tell me about your thoughts with the Blue Ridge schools.
I didn't know a whole lot about them when I did a little research on the internet. It seemed like they were pretty good schools. I've got a little conflicting information. One star rating gave it a lower rating. I think that was through like the Realtor app maybe. Don't quote me on that because I'm not sure which app it was.
Don't quote them on it.
Another one was good. Another article brought up, another search brought up an article about using technology for some of the grade school students, which we were encouraged by. So we didn't have any fears of the school district when we were making this decision.
Great. Again, welcome. I'm glad to have a 10-day resident here. That's a great insight that is probably very few, if anybody else in this room could offer. So thank you very much for coming and sharing that. Any other comments?
I'm Willard McKinley. I live here in Farmer City and have lived here all my life. And in response to some of the things we just said here recently about the commercial property out there near the subdivision, somebody has checked into that, and they want $66,000 an acre for it. So I think that's a little rich. The other thing about the building on the corner of town, there has been an attempt to do something, but there's just a lack of funds to get taken care of it. And I think what else has been for right now, that's all I have.
We got all right.
We'll get back. Don't worry.
Yeah, the big thing about this is that, we'll keep bringing up and expanding ideas. Did you have something to say here earlier? I was walking right by you, I thought your hand was up. So, I'll go here first.
Perfect.
Elizabeth Schlesser.
Elizabeth Schlesser?
I think one of the things is to have one of the best school districts we can possibly develop. If you look around other communities where they have an outstanding school, the homes have come big time. And I think having a really, really good school is critical for drawing people.
Thank you. And that's another commercial for the meeting coming up for the planning for the schools, which is exactly what that's all about.
Which one were you?
I don't know if it's a high density, but we have a fair number of artists who are working here in our community, and I think that would be something to build off of. I'm not exactly sure how, but I do find it interesting, and I think it could potentially be a real asset to the community as a way to sell ourselves. And I speculate that because we're relatively close to a couple of universities, this wouldn't be a bad place for artists to potentially settle because they could sell work. But again, these are speculations. I don't know for hard numbers or anything.
Are you an artist in town?
No, I'm a pastor actually.
Sort of.
All right, my name is Matt Whitman. A lot of you may not know me. I graduated in 2004 from Blue Ridge High School. I apologize that you don't know me very well. I plan to change that in the coming months and years. I am the student pastor for Victory Christian Center, right across the yard over here. I just want to say these are some really great ideas. We've had some really great comments so far. But from my perspective, I see a little bit more from everything we're focusing on so far that they're more of Band-Aid issues. And I would like to see us having more discussion on the heart of the issues that are plaguing our town. When I grew up, I can see looking back, we were on a decline. But there were still a lot of great things that I enjoyed when I grew up in junior high, high school in this town. And I did enjoy it. Some of the biggest things when somebody looks to settle down somewhere and raise a family, have kids, that's me. That's this guy over here. That's Micah. You look for one of two things. You look for a safe place to raise your children and a good school system and school programs. And if you don't feel safe sending your kids to school or safe raising your kids or letting them ride around on their bikes outside without, something happening, that's going to be a big deterrent. Forget for a minute all the housing issues, forget for a minute all of the building issues and the jobs issues. I don't care if there's good houses here. I don't care if there's good businesses here. I don't care if there's plenty of jobs for me to find work in. I ain't gonna live here if I do not feel assured that I cannot raise a family in a safe location and in a place where they're gonna have a great opportunity to have success. And just a few ideas that I wrote down, solutions, because really you shouldn't comment unless you got some solutions in my book. So a few things that I've got some thoughts on is with our school systems. I know we're going to get into that tonight, but student development and leadership curriculum and programs. Taking pride in our town. Keeping things looking nice. When I see this town, you may have your thoughts on what we're doing with the murals, but that looks good. That looks good. When somebody comes into this town and they see that, they're like, man, that feels very homey. It feels very comfy, this is kind of cool. But when you get around town, what are we seeing? Are we seeing things that are declining and decaying and running down? Businesses that don't take care of their stuff, people who don't take care of their yards and their homes and paint their house. What are we seeing when we go around and drive? And that's what I'm passionate about. I'm in charge of students, their lives, and helping them have better success. And I've got a lot of students that come to our church every single week that come from really bad home situations. And I'm the one that has the belief that they can be somebody. No matter what house they come from, no matter the amount of money, even though they deal with horrible, horrible, horrible situations in their life, that is not fair, I believe that they can be somebody. And I want us as a community to be able to join together and say, hey, this is what we should do. We should not only just have the passion and the desire to have, we just want to raise good kids that grow up and have kids and all that stuff. No, we want to do that, and we want to make leaders. We want to have people that want to stay in this community and want to improve it. We don't want to have people that the only people that stay were the people that couldn't make something out of their life and they got stuck here, and the successful people left. Because that was the idea when I was growing up. It's like, I'm going to be somebody, and I'm going to get a good job, I'm going to make good grades so I can get the heck out of here. And I ain't coming back. And I can tell you, I'm going to quit here in just a second. I went to seminary, and I was learning about God. I knew that God was calling me to ministry, and I ran away from it for a time. But God got a hold of my life to impact people's lives and your students' lives, your children's lives. And I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to come back to Farmer City. I was going to go work for some awesome church that was so amazing. But God put it on my heart, such a big burden for this community and for these people, for you guys, for your grandkids, your kids, your great-grandkids, to see a better future for this town. And I live in Bloomington right now because it's closer to work, but my wife and I are already planning to move back to Farmer City, but we want to make it great. So let's focus on the big issues. The big issues.
So you're preaching to the choir. Clearly that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Awesome, thank you. So this is a great transition, I think. Okay, so we've listed we've mentioned some positive things, and those are really important. And we got into some weaknesses here, and I think those are really important to address too. Now, many people in this room are decision makers, business owners, longtime community members, and I think it's important now that as we talk about weaknesses, again, we don't want to get defensive, we don't want to get upset, but we need to hear the things that we need to improve on as well. And I'll agree 100%. A family won't move to, I'm not going to move into the inner city of Chicago in the gang section, because I would not feel comfortable living there. So we certainly need a safe environment. And we need a great school system. We need all those things that affect families. So, again, Farmer City, Nashville, Bellflower, Blue Ridge Schools. What can we do better? Wow, that's easy. Oh, here we go. Anyone else? I know when you sit in the back, sometimes you don't like to communicate, but
this will be the last one, because it's the last thing I was thinking of when I came in. Particularly in the residential parts of the community, I would like to see some investment in sidewalks. As a father of 2 young children, I would like to have more sidewalks where my kids can play. As someone who's got a lot of people with mobility issues for any wide number of reasons, lack of sidewalks makes parts of this community not good for people with mobility issues, and I think that's something we need to address.
good. Kurt?
You guys that are younger guys, you just moved here. Did you guys come from a rental situation, or did you just move straight into a house?
I'll ask some questions here.
What I'm getting at is there's not really a lot of anything transitional here. When my wife and I first moved here, we rented an apartment in Mansfield, and yes, it was reasonable, but again, there's just not a lot of move from mom and dad's house, live in an apartment, or whatever the case may be, before you move on. And these days, people don't really have stellar credit when they're 21, 22 years old. They're fighting to find a job. Most of them are making just above minimum wage. Buying a house really isn't an option. Is there any way we could, maybe do something? I know that the utilities across the interstate, but in my thought, that would be a great place to do some type of a small apartment community and draw commuters in.
So some rental property situation as well. And I can say the town does seem to lack some rental availability. Linda, either way there.
This gentleman mentioned sidewalks. I don't know if everybody knows this, but the city has a program, I think it's still ongoing,
It is.
where 2/3 of it's paid for by the city and, what is it, Monsanto or?
Clark.
No,
Yeah, Clark
Clark Foundation, that's it. And yet the homeowner pays a third. I redid the sidewalk on my property 2 years ago on Main Street. 135 feet of it. And my portion of that was about $1,200. You know, so if you need your sidewalk done, look into it. They pick up a lot of it.
So one of the things, obviously, as these things come up, and people aren't aware of programs, that's one of the reasons for this meeting is we're gonna let people be aware of those as best we can, either through newspaper or social media or email or any way we can. But yeah, that actually is a great program that the city has in place. Linda?
Okay, you've mentioned the utilities across the interstate several times tonight. I don't know if it's possible, don't know if it's feasible, but why can't we run utilities? Monsanto has utilities over there. Why can't we run utilities that way already across the interstate over to that section that they created? Why can't that be a possibility? And I've also heard, I don't know if this is true, but there were utilities run underneath the interstate at one time, and it's been so many years ago, it's not feasible now to use it. But could they not run in the same lines? Could they not just make them bigger? Could they not? I just don't understand. They keep saying this utility problem, but how does Monsanto, how do they get utilities over there? Why can't they run them that way?
So I'll try and answer that as best as I know, and I could be incorrect. My understanding is they ran casings underneath the interstate at that time so that they could run utility lines and those types of things through there from city utilities. And maybe the point is think outside the box in terms of maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be the Farmer City Utilities. It could be another provider's utilities that gets to that point. Again, we're not necessarily trying to solve things, but that is an excellent point, and that is, hey, let's think outside the box. We need a comment from someone in back about anything. So maybe we can get something back there. There we go.
Hi, my name is Jamie Wallace. We moved here about 14 years ago, originally from Champaign, so we know the whole big city life. We settled in McLean for a little while, which was a total shock because it was so small, and coming from Champaign, we would go from Livingston to Champaign all the time. So settling here in Farmer City was a really nice way for us to see our family. Excuse me, I'm really nervous. So we work in Bloomington and we go to Champaign a lot, and we love the city here. Everyone's very friendly. I'm in the garden club, and we have a lot of nice ladies that really help make things beautiful on a non-existent budget. We really try to get volunteers to help, but that's like pulling teeth. So I would say one thing we could do better is to have a place where people that do really care about the community can volunteer their services and find out what exactly can be done better, like when do we need to work on the park or what needs done to get more people to volunteer. There's a lot of people here tonight, so obviously you all care a great deal about the community, but I find that it's really hard to find volunteers to get a project done. Everyone's so busy. We live out in Prairie Ridge, and I think that having like a bike path into town would draw in new families. There were plans, I guess, for a park at one time out there. I'm not really sure what the plans were, but we have a lot of kids out there, and if they could get into town on their bikes and we could have a nice park out there, that might draw people in, and we could expand out there.
Thank you. Good job. So a couple of the real quick key points that were there. Parks, pathways, a lot of a lot of, again, youth ideas. The interesting thing, I'll make a comment, when this all got organized, I'm not gonna lie, I thought, wow, there's a real possibility 10 people show up. So I know when you ask for volunteers in a lot of different situations, it is challenging at times, and I do understand everybody is extraordinarily busy. But this is an excellent showing of the fact that a lot of people do really, really care about the communities that we live in, and so that's why we're here. But thank you so much. Coming in back.
Yes, my name is Elizabeth Folks. I know a lot of people in the audience, but we moved here in 2004 from California, a very suburban environment. Our children were not allowed to even be in the front yard without supervision at 4 and 5. Maybe that doesn't seem like much to you, but I mean, I'm talking, you don't turn your back on them. And it wasn't a bad community. That's just the environment when you're living in a suburban area. But we chose Farmer City to move to, not only because of family, but because we wanted a small town. We could have easily gone to Champaign or Bloomington, but we liked the location. We liked it being central to several different areas, but we really wanted a small town. We wanted our kids to be able to hop on a bike, run around town, and where the town was when we moved here 11 years ago was very much like that. They knew the safe areas to go. Stop at Mary Walker's if you need help. Stop at Terry Everson's if you need help. They'll find us. They'll figure out who we are. Safe places. I think in the time I've been here, and my kids are much older now, but in the time I've been here, that has changed. It's getting a little bit scarier for families. But I think that's something that was mentioned earlier about being safe for families, and that was one thing that drew me here 11 years ago. But one of the positives that I see about our community is that it is small. Lots of people like me and like the Wallace here, they move here for that small town. And I think sometimes when you grow up here, you don't see that small town as being something positive. I think that's really something positive you should celebrate and actually encourage, but also make it a family friendly. The parks, the schools. I have an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old. They're getting ready to leave home. I got one client for college. I want them to come back someday, but it doesn't look like there's going to be much here. I want them to feel like they can come home. They don't have to go somewhere else to have a career and have a job and have a family. And I think that's an important point to make about making it a family-friendly community between the parks, the schools, and even outside of school activities such as the rec leagues. You've got soccer and basketball, football, your JFL. Those are all programs that at some point or another we participated in, and we need to keep them. They give our kids something to do to keep them out of trouble. So, also as far as business goes, I agree, we need families before we need business. And sometimes I think we focus on big corporate business, and I'm not sure that's really necessarily where we need to go. It's entrepreneur. A big company is not going to come in and invest multi-million dollars to come here, but there is a mom and pop that if there is a business here, they'll come, they'll open something. We have some of those right now. And some of them are struggling. So if we can get more families and concentrate on the mom and pop type businesses, and the corporates are going to come later. I came from an area that was a bedroom community. They didn't have a lot of big corporate industry, but they had some mom and pops. Well, those are big communities in California now. It happened over years. It doesn't happen in 5 years. But thanks.
So I'm going to turn the tables just a little bit. Did anyone else? Okay, go ahead. Mary Kay? Oh, there's the microphone.
Hi, Mary Kay Hirschberger, and I'm the administrator of the nursing home in Farmer City. A lot of the people that I have in the nursing home grew up here, and they came back here because Farmer City is a really good place to die. From one end of the spectrum to the other. But, we're one of the largest employers in town. We're not a big business. I have 60-some employees. And I do have a problem. I have 9 nurses. Out of those 9 nurses, only 2 of them live in Farmer City because most of them rent. You know, they're young kids out of school and they rent and they can't find a place. They're in Mansfield, they're in Leroy, they're in Champaign, which is fine, except in the middle of winter time, it's a little tough to get them in there. I live a little close, so I can't, you know, skip work. We have lived here for 40 years. As I look around this room, a lot of you, I thank you because you have been, over the years, wonderful volunteers for me. Anybody that wants to volunteer in Farmer City, there are plenty of things to do, but we have lots of them. Right now, we have school kids, thank you, Mrs. Wilson, that come every Tuesday to help with bingo, one-on-one. These kids are learning that there is life in a nursing home, that it is not a place where people go to die, even though I'm kind of being facetious on that. Today we went to Curtis Orchard. They brought back donuts and pumpkins and apples something or other, and oh my goodness. We do a lot of those kind of trips, but we can only take a couple that are in wheelchairs. And believe me, more and more now are waiting longer and longer to come. So when we take a van trip, I would love to have 5 or 6 volunteers that would go so that the 5 or 6 that are in wheelchairs could all go. Because I can fit them in the van, but I got to have somebody to push them when they get out. And I have to thank EMOS because they're very, very good to us when somebody wants to go down there and have dinner. So we do have some very positive things, but really, on the volunteer issue, the garden club comes and helps me out a lot too, so.
Fantastic. And for those that don't know, I just want to publicly say Mary Kay Hirschberg does just a fantastic job with the nursing home, and that nursing home is incredibly high rated, very high rated.
And we
that
celebrate years of being in business. We're going to do it from 1 to 3 on Halloween. Everybody's invited for cake and punch. 50 years in existence.
50.
I was just a babe when I started. Actually, the nursing home has only had 2 licensed administrators. Velda Swigert was the first one, and she was there for 19 years. This January, I will celebrate 30 years there. So,
Just a quick question. Now that your husband is retired, does he come over and volunteer a lot at the nursing home?
he did before, and now it's even worse. Even my staff calling for things.
Sorry there.
I did write down as an idea volunteer network, which I think is a great idea, you know, for Garden Club and that. And I know that I occasionally get calls from my Boy Scouts. Yeah, my resume is not quite like Kurt's up here. I've been Scoutmaster for about 10 years, and I'm the secretary of the Masons Lodge. That's it. But when it comes to volunteers, you know, I've got like 20 boys in the Scout troop now, but they're busy. So when you ask, more than happy to, you know, if it usually maybe 1 or 2 is all we're going to drum up because of their schedules. However, if we had something, and this is where some of this is going to become rubber meets the road, if this was something that you voiced on, thought this was an idea, that's kind of why Lynn's videotaping, so we can kind of come back through and remember who said what were some of the ideas, who maybe can we call and pair up on some things, because this was an idea that was brought up, now how do we make this reality? And that's why tonight we just kind of want to talk more about what are the ideas, and then from after this is where we start expanding onto, okay, now how do you make that happen? So not everything's based in reality right now, that comes after tonight.
I'm Sherry Dagenheimer, and I'm in Cornerstone Real Estate, and I'm a lifelong Farmer City resident. And I was just thinking when Jamie said that, and when you said that, Mary Kay, about maybe having something on Facebook, on the Farmer City site, or something with volunteers, like a rotating something when there's a need, somebody like the Garden Club or Mary Kay, you can post on there and say we need volunteers, and maybe retired people or whoever has time, you know, can get in there and do that. And speaking of Velda Swigert, that reminded me of something else. I happen to know she's in her 90s, she's amazing, she still drives, and she does not drive out of town. The only grocery store she has is Farmer City. So I'm putting my plug in for Farmer City Grocery Store. Please shop there. Please shop local.
I've got a whole page actually on my phone that's just all the reasons why a small town needs a grocery store. And it's got all kinds of ideas along with it, and I haven't read through all of that. And, it's not our business, but it is. It's our town, and that is extremely important. So, we can say go shop there, but there's, maybe some other ideas, other things to help, and that's something that if a group is, again, so impassioned to do so, maybe somebody needs to approach the owner and say, look, there's like 5 of us and we want to do whatever we can to help you out, figure out some ideas. Because, let's face it, there's budget involved. It's not yours, it's theirs on what it's going to take to get things done. So you can be as daring as you want with ideas, but ultimately they've got to make it happen. But ideas would be appreciated, I'm sure. Something out of the ordinary, because if they'd have thought of it, they'd have done it already.
I'm Ken DeMars. I've been a resident here in Farmer City for 7 years, and I believe in Farmer City. I believed in Farmer City when I moved here. We talked about our school district. The school district I was going to put our kids into 8 years ago was Rantoul. And I can look around and kind of see some people squint. When you think, I've lived in a small town most of my life. Born and raised in Watsika. Moved to Rantoul because of a job, and then ended up in Farmer City. Was blessed enough to wind up here working the concrete plant. So if you guys want sidewalks, I'm your man. But we talked about our grocery store. We've talked about all of our local businesses. I believe in all of our local businesses. I believe in our community. My whole family believes in our community. Those of you who know me, I'm a firefighter. My wife is the head of the PIE here in town. We've embraced this community, and the community has embraced us. And that is where I think our new gentleman here will probably find the highlight, is that this community will gather around a person that comes in and show them the way and show them how to live in this community, because it's a lot different than California, I'm sure. But, I'm going to ramble here. I'm terrible at speaking. But in the short of it, we need to believe in our community. Obviously, everyone in this room does believe in this community, or they wouldn't be here. Our job tonight is after we leave here, is to go to our neighbor and give them the trust in this community that we have. At least put the word into their ear that this is the place that they want to be. And then that person needs to step on, and so on and so forth. And we can be a great community. We are a great community. We can be better. And I believe in it. Our mayor has done a wonderful job. We said something about the beautification projects. They're going uptown. My daughter looks forward to every day seeing the new mural, just gaining a little bit every day and every day. Those little things are going to do it. It's going to take time. We just got to be in it for the long haul, and we all have to believe in the job.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask, this is your perceptions, and I'm going to ask this question, and for whatever community you live in, I think most of the people in here is Farmer City, and we'll start there, for whatever community you live in. But rate your community by a show of hands if you think, not just people in this room, but people from outside of maybe our communities, what their perception is of our town, or your town, our town. Is it extremely positive, extremely negative, generally positive, or generally negative? Those are our choices. And just by a show of hands, people from outside of our community, how many in this room think that the perception of the community that you live in is generally extremely positive? Let's start there, extremely positive. Okay? How many people think it's generally positive? Okay. Generally negative. And extremely negative. Okay. So, to me, if we want people from outside to move in, our perception, which could be incorrect, is that maybe people perceive us to be generally negative. Let's say the same with the school district. Same range. Extremely positive. Generally positive. Generally negative. Extremely negative. Okay. So look, that was more the generally positive range than the generally negative range. Okay, just a little experiment. So I know Brent doesn't want me to go there, but I'm gonna go there anyway. Let's start throwing out solutions. How do we make people in our communities and also outside of our communities think more positively about our community and our school? And you can answer either one of those or any of those. So what are they don't have to be achievable, they don't have to be realistic goals, they don't have to be anything. We're just going to throw out there. So maybe I'm going to throw this one out there. Every kid that graduates from Blue Ridge High School gets a full ride scholarship to any university in the country. All right?
Thanks, Bernie.
Now, that's probably, I said no political jokes. No, again, is that achievable? Probably not. Okay? Let's not think about how silly an idea or how achievable an idea is at this point. How do we change the perception? How do we change the perception? Again, community or school? Oh, yes, sir.
This kind of ties in with what we've already been talking about, but I'm a little detached, so I don't quite know, but do we have a volunteer program or a community service program for the students in the school? Like in Bloomington, in Champaign, all the big schools, if you want to participate in a sport or activity or scholastic bowl or anything, you got to do X amount of community service hours. And that's a great idea because that's teaching kids responsibility. It's teaching, just all the good things you want and preparing them for the real world. And that would help us as a community. We just talked about how we're lacking volunteers, we're lacking people. And I don't know if we already have that, but if we don't, that's something that we should try to work towards. I've got students in my student ministry that are great kids, and they don't have anything better to do. They're playing video games all day long, and they've got I see natural leadership tendencies in them that we can tap into for the betterment of our community and changing the perception of our school district. If we have teachers, and I'm not bashing our teachers, I want to point out Mrs. Drake, who was she was awesome. We boycotted and ranted and rioted almost when we found out that Miss America from Champaign was going to be our keynote speaker for our graduation. We wanted Mrs. Drake, and we got her. Thank you, Jesus. But she believed in all of us, and she was not just a teacher. She didn't just teach English. She taught people how to believe in themselves, and she was a leader. And if we have teachers that are not just teachers, they teach us math, science, literature, and everything, but they lead us, they teach us how to be great people, and paired with a great volunteer program, I think that would, that's something we can see tangible results. We can't just say, oh, well, we're doing great. We can say, hey, we got this many more students volunteering. We are accomplishing, we painted this many buildings this year, and we can all see tangible results, and we can have a big party about all that.
So we can tell you're a pastor. You like to talk there. The two things out of their volunteer program for students and a teacher mentorship, maybe. Reward our great teachers. Pat them on the back. Say thank you. Yes, sir.
If people outside of our community have a bad perception of our communities because we as individuals project that. Like I said, I moved here in November of 2001.
So how do we fix it?
And within a couple of years after I moved here, I was telling people I wish I'd never moved here. Really. And that's the wrong attitude.
So let me ask you a question. Because of people that you came in contact with that weren't
I just felt like it was a rundown city downtown.
So how do we fix that?
We gotta have a more positive attitude out of everybody. What you say to other people.
More positive attitude.
Sinks right in.
So new people that come to town, been here for 10 days, we welcome them with a big meeting. How incredible is that?
First big meeting.
And we're friendly at the grocery store, we're friendly at the gas station, we say hello. We're very welcoming. I mean, those are some solutions. Yes?
There's a small town out east that I visit frequently that has what is called a service bank. And
A service bank?
Bank. And people can put time available or jobs available there, and people can call the service bank and get assistance. And it makes a connection between problems and solutions.
So a volunteer service bank, kind of a connection of volunteers versus needs for volunteers. And who else has some? Someone else in the back I know had some. Here we go.
In regards to your comments earlier about getting the volunteers for the students and the players, we can't field a team on anything in schools now. We got to make them volunteer something to be on the team. We won't have anything.
Okay, so I'm going to throw this out there. So no idea is a bad idea tonight. So we don't want to throw anything out, but I get your point.
Yeah. Okay. I just say we need to do more things to get them involved. You know, they are sitting there playing on a video game instead of being out playing basketball or football or anything like that. You know, that's just the way the upbringing is now. You know, it's easier to let them have the game than it is to be out playing with them or doing something like that. As a community, we need to do something to get the kids more involved. We do have Little League. We do have traveling basketball. We have football. Not everybody's an athlete.
Video games all.
Get something else involved that way.
So I will kind of to follow up on that. I got a lot of comments prior to the meeting from a lot of people that were too far away to come here. But one of the comments was, if you want to attract families, if you want to attract young people, you have to do things that attract families, and you have to do things that attract young people. So obviously those are typically the recreation, the youth programs, the school programs, those types of things. Those bring families in. Who has the microphone? Yes.
Hi, I'm Laura Schweitzer. I know a number of you have mentioned the parks, and I think that's a really great thing to do. I mentioned it earlier to you today, but the idea of having kind of a park district where we have programs for youth during the summer, I think that would be an excellent idea, because I know there are a number of programs that get cut in the school. I'm not connected with the school currently, so I don't know what's being cut. I would assume that budgetary issues, there have to be programs that are being cut, but if, as has been mentioned, we have a number of artists in the community. Perhaps people would be willing to volunteer their time to have a youth art program during the summer. Maybe parents would be able to look at that and see that as kind of a supplemental education for their children. If you can't get those kinds of things through the school itself, maybe the community can create those kinds of programs. And maybe, I know that there are a number of people here with skills that they could volunteer, and possibly that could help solve a number of problems all at the same time.
Fantastic. Other, yes. Oh. Krista.
Yeah, my name's Kristen Gifford. I have two boys, 15 and 11. And they do go out and about and ride their bikes, skateboard, and everything like that. But they like to also explore things in that. You know, like taking the old railroad tracks and making that into something interesting, instead of looking a little trashy with all the trees growing over it and you can't see. Some of these houses you can't see because of all the trees and the tracks. You know, just like making it a pathway, a bike trail. You know, there could be a bike trail from here to Mansfield. That old train track isn't used anymore. You know, my boys want to get out and do things. They would like to be, you know, out doing something fun or something. They like to hang out with their friends, but you know, that's all they do, hang out and play on their phones.
Right.
But they have to get interested. It has to be something they're interested in, or they don't care.
Yep. Yes, a couple of real quick comments on that. There is a program called Rails to Trails program, and it's been talked about in this community for a long, and a lot of, not just here, but in a lot of communities for a long, long time. And basically that turns the old unused train tracks into a bike path or a walk path, and those connect many cities in many cases. And I know at some time there was some discussion from a Bloomington to a Champaign connecting that entire area. There has been, and I don't know where it came from, but there's been some resistance to that along the way, and I don't know, obviously that program has probably been unfunded, with given the state's issues. But again, it's something we should look at. Also, I got visited today by the Farmer City Beautification Committee. Okay, didn't know it existed until today. And one of their goals is to beautify Farmer City with plantings and those types of things. And I know their first project is the vacant lot on Main Street where the new mural is going up as well. And again, I'm sure, and I know they've identified some other projects as well. So things are in the works. If you want to volunteer with that or whatever, let me know and I'll get you in contact with them also. Hopefully I did okay on that. Okay, other solutions, possible solutions. Let's throw them out there.
I got one over here.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Sherry first.
Go ahead.
Well, in response to like the kids for sports or whatever, I know that the high school baseball coach last year had the kids go out into the community and they were raking leaves and doing things like that. And I think they had a blast, it sounded like. So that is possible that they might enjoy doing things like that when it's presented in a way that maybe they didn't have a choice, I don't know. But and also we all know we have troubled kids in this community, and maybe in response to what they've done to get in trouble or whatever, when they're caught, maybe they should have to do community service to help out, get them to work and do something to help our community. So I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah. And I'm going to go on that volunteer list to have my yard raked by the baseball team. Put me on there.
They were mostly by rakes.
Oh.
One of the things that I do love about Farmer City, and I travel for sales, so I see a lot of the small communities here in Illinois. And I mean from Galesburg all the way to the Indiana border, all of the central part of Illinois. And this particular area is beautiful. The communities that we have in this area are gorgeous. Monticello, Mahomet. There are some really, awesome places to live here. And by contrast, I hear a lot of people say things about Farmer City, but one of the solutions I think is to change this image that we have, that we've given ourselves, is to go to some of these other communities and look. I would challenge you guys to find a community with less than 2,000 people that has more to offer than Farmer City. This place is absolutely beautiful. We have a ton of programs. Yes, our enrollment in school is down, but as far as, we have South Park. Have you seen the new soccer field out there? That is amazing. It's gorgeous. Our football field, we've got the new crow's nest up there, and we've had volunteers. Brett says he hasn't done a lot, but he went all out to get a new PA system up there in the football field so that when we have games that we can announce and we can play the music. Our field is gorgeous. Our downtown, that square, the people who take the time to do that, it's amazing. And I just don't want to see that discounted because I know that what we do have here is actually very special. And that's all I have.
So a lot of positives. Maybe people just don't know about them. So, and I had somewhere up here a marketing plan. So maybe a marketing plan is an idea. We need to let other people know the good things that we do have, and fix some of the negative things that we have. Yes.
I lived in Ellsworth for about 35 years, and when we first moved to Ellsworth, it was just a little podunk town and a little podunk school. But over the years, they have worked. Last year, the seniors had just under $2 million worth of scholarships from that school. There's less than 80 kids in that senior class. They have, if you pay attention to any of their activities, the parents back that place till you give. There's not sitting room for plays or concerts or games. The parents support those kids to the max, and it makes a big difference. And education is the #1 thing. Get the best education you can, and you will go far.
So, family and community support of youth and programs.
Now, Kurt, the one thing I want to say is, we've got the media here tonight, which is great. But it seems like if there's something negative that happens in Farmer City, the media gets all over it. We need to let the media know more about the positive that happens in Farmer City. So that we get what's happening. If we know it, if we know what's happening in town positive, that's great. But if people outside of town don't hear it, all we're going to hear is the negative.
Yep. So I'm going to throw this out there. The Leroy Farmer City Press does a fantastic job locally of telling wonderful things about our communities. It's above and beyond that area that we seem to lack getting the positive support.
We need to get that positive out.
Yep. So, comment back there. A new comment here. Our speaker.
Evening, I'm Lonnie Southern. I've lived in Farmer City since April 2011. I live in Prairie Ridge. Just to comment about your process, that you're going to need a vision for the future by prioritizing the interrelated aspects of community life. And thinking about it, as I hear you talk, you're talking about a diamond. Up at the top would be basic needs for daily survival. You would put your food and shelter and work and medical and education under that area. On the left you could put homes, old and new, and on the right you could put businesses. And on the bottom of that diamond you could put community spirit with parks and pools and activity and religious life. And in the center you would put city services. And for a small town, really remarkable in terms of police and fire and utilities. Our power is always on. The snow is removed in a timely fashion. If anything, we'd like a little bit more attention to water quality. But all of that said together, you need to be able to promote the best aspects of Farmer City area, taking in the other surrounding communities, beginning first with new signs on the freeway, dealing with social media, getting a marketing plan. And I would close by asking, is there any thought about developing in some creative way the Salt Creek?
We need him, Kurt.
I said he needs
I'm sorry?
We need him.
Yeah, he walks by my house every day, so I will snatch him at one time.
Yes, he seems to have his thoughts very well put together. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
One of the things I want to mention is, and we've mentioned it in our communications before, and you mentioned it a few minutes ago, is marketing. You also mentioned it. We don't really market our town very well, especially not in the new and modern way. Social media is huge, and I'm not talking just Facebook. I traveled through Kentucky and Tennessee and into Georgia last month, and we're wanting to try something new on food. I'm online on my phone trying to find a new restaurant in Paducah. People travel through, they're looking at that. Even people in Champaign-Urbana, I have my kids on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're with their friends at Parkland at U of I. It gets around in social media, even if it's not a full-on advertisement. And I know some of you younger guys know what I'm talking about. We're not using social media to promote our town and our businesses, but also there's other aspects that I think we're lacking, and I don't want to be awful negative, but we really need to catch up on all internet. We do have the high-speed internet, but when we're talking about keywords and with search engine optimization, we're not getting that, and sometimes I think we stick to what we know and which is newspapers, it's flyers. These are areas that really don't cost a lot of money, and if we can explore them or get somebody on there that understands them. I mean, I kind of get them, but I can't implement them. It takes somebody who's been there and kind of a little bit more tech savvy to understand it. But I think we're missing a whole key thing there that could help our community. It could help tourism from the lake. We get people coming in from Liquid Edge that we could, and that goes into the business rather than living here. But if we can promote our town in a positive way through social media and the internet, that's going to help bring more families, and it looks like, wow, there's a lot to do there. So,
Thank you.
When I got involved in Farmer City and the downtown area specifically, I started trying to figure out what is it that makes, nationwide there's a problem with a town from 1,500 to 3,000 people that people are leaving. There's nothing going on. So I started doing a lot of research on what is it that makes 1,500 to 3,000 people grow. And there's a lot of information out there. And a lot of it has to do with having a really quality school district. And a lot of it has to do with everything. There are a bunch of successful towns that are out there. And they've all had a really good school district. And they have done some form of major downtown revitalization. The city center has been vital in all these successful communities. We're doing a lot right now for our downtown. And I thought by now somebody would mention revitalizing the downtown, but I had to bring that one up. Thank you.
The only thing I see about the businesses, the way I look at them, are mostly junk stores, antique stores. There's not really much other business downtown on Main Street, other than antique stores.
You gotta have an antique store and then
Go,
you
huh?
gotta have an antique store and then you go.
So additional business?
I don't want an empty building, but the town really needs other businesses besides antique stores.
Right.
You could donut shop.
Donut shop.
You know, I'll bring my idea up here because we're talking about, positive message in that and how other communities in that see us. I think a lot of it is, and I said this online when Kirk first started this discussion, is I think there's a lot of things that we don't know how good we already are. I know when I was in school, the thought of going to college in sports was like, from our town, really? Nobody does that. A lot of kids do that now. I mean, a lot of kids do that. And go into the service and have we've got 2 marching Illini from Mansfield right now. Some really cool stuff. We don't have that advertised anywhere, unless you know who they are, and there's nothing to really sort of support that and make us go, wow, we've done some really cool stuff. We've got Gabby Thorold, pass that here, is playing on a 42-0 Parkland volleyball team right now. We have a girl from Farmer City is playing on an undefeated 42-0 college volleyball team. Yeah, there's just a lot of really cool stuff that we don't know. So, my thought, and Josh Moody and I got together this years ago, and I thought, man, we really need to have, and again, anytime an idea comes up, there's always the question, well, who's going to pay for that? We'll figure that out. Not every idea is going to work because there's going to be things that get in the way, but I love to see plaque in the schools that show who's played in sports and where. I want to see who has served in the military. I want to see people who've been in the bands, from the big red marching machine at the ISU to the marching Illini. I want to see kids that have maybe been big in some sort of, substantial production in college, so they played Dorothy and Wizard of Oz at Illinois Wesleyan. That's awesome. A kid from Farmer City did that. And I think that would be great to see that in the school. So kids can, I think there's room in the hallway outside the major gym. But just, and then it's a matter of figuring out, okay, somebody's got to put it together. And like I said, if you're the one that opens your mouth and kind of brings up, maybe we should do this, you're probably in the middle of going to be the one coordinating it. And then surely some other people will help out along the way. We'll get the volunteers going. But I think that'd be a great thing. I think our kids that are in our schools now, and to your point, need to see that success so they can kind of go, we're a cool town. We got, and they can rattle off some really cool things that have happened from people from our town. Also, we've had some sports teams that have done some pretty good things, and we have no state championships yet. But what about something on the signs coming into town? You see that in others, and such was junior high, 7th grade, 100-meter dash state champion. Whatever it is, it's cool.
This is the positive I was talking about that needs to be put out there to the public too.
Yeah.
So they know that Farmer City has positive. How many people in town know who George Rock was?
Well, who promised you? George Rock, everybody? Not the new folks, I gotta learn this stuff.
He grew up here in town. He made all I want for Christmas my 2 front teeth.
Yeah, the guy who actually sang All I Want for Christmas Is My 2 Front Teeth was George Rock with the Spike Jones Band. He's from Farmer City.
Poor guy died penniless too, by the way,
But he came back to Farmer City first.
He's married out here somewhere.
Yeah, is it Maple Grove? Yeah, he's out of Maple Grove.
You know the man had enough money to pay for his headstone?
Oh, no.
His friends in the band came down several years later and bought a headstone for him.
Mr. Scarborough.
I went to school with Joe David Rock, a few years older than I was. He done real well. I know all about him, and he died broke, and I buried him free.
So everybody remember that. Do real well.
Die broke.
If you die broke, it's all taken care of. All right. So listen, I don't want to keep everybody here all night tonight. I want to say, I guess, a couple of things. One, this has been really a lot more positive than maybe I anticipated, and that's a good thing. I've done, with DCDC, we're going through kind of a similar process. Thank you. And it's interesting. One of the things we've discovered there is quality of life issues. Really became very, very, very important. So when we start talking about business, we start talking about new business coming in, new growth coming in, which is what DCDC does. It's interesting. The quality of life issues are really elevated on those lists. It's really important reasons as why many of us live in the communities that we live in. So I think that's obviously something important.
Could you specifically say what you mean by quality of life issues?
Yes. So safety, friendly environment, knowing your neighbors, good schools, absolutely. Nice parks, nice recreation. A couple of just personal stories. We shared a lot of those tonight. Several years ago, we were out of milk, and my wife said, "Hey, can you run to the grocery store and get milk?" I said, "Sure, glad to do it." 2 hours later, I got home. She said, "Where you been?" I'm like, "I was at the grocery store getting milk." The point was, literally, when you can go to the grocery store to get milk and it takes 2 hours because you're having conversations with your friends, your neighbors, your neighbors' kids, that's a real positive experience. My wife and I, for a very short time, moved to St. Joe. Actually, I worked in Urbana at that time. We were 3 kids even, so over 20 years ago. And we lived in that new subdivision by the interstate. And I thought, wow, St. Joe, what a nice little town. I was excited to live there. And the one thing I discovered is the townsfolk didn't like those new people that lived in the interstate. Because it did all kinds of things to the drainage system, and their yards started flooding, and all this and that going on. And I walked into the grocery store and I wanted to have a conversation with people, honest to God. And it just didn't happen. I didn't feel comfortable there. And I said, we got to get back to a community that embraces us, embraces our family, embraces, I can have a 2-hour conversation at a grocery store. That's what I look for. So again, I'm not saying that that's the end all. I'm not saying it's anything, but it's really important in a small town. I think that's what people look for a lot. So where do we go from here? I hope everybody left some contact information. And I know that there's other ideas, because I've heard a lot of other ideas that have come to me prior to this meeting. And I know that there's going to be a lot more of this conversation. And I think the thing to do is to start and say, okay, here's here's something that we can accomplish. Here's something that doesn't take any money. Here's something that takes a lot of money. Can we do that? I don't know. But the point is to try to get there. And again, I really thought we'd have a lot more going on, a lot more negative. I'm really glad we don't. I mean, I think that's fantastic. And maybe I think a lot of that's the crowd that's here, certainly. But there's some real good that's come out of tonight. Go ahead. If there's other comments, I don't want to stifle anyone, sir. Go ahead.
No, I don't have a comment. I just want to know when the next meeting is.
Okay. So that's a question that I've been asked a lot. Okay. And my answer prior to tonight was always, this is a huge risk. I mean, we could go in there and this could just be a disaster. I don't think that's been the case. So if there is some interest in follow-up get-togethers, such as this, maybe we could even have more specific get-togethers. Then I think we proceed in that direction. In the interim, obviously there is the school's strategic plan on the 4th and 5th, in which hopefully, schools are incredibly important to a community. So hopefully as many people here can attend those and spread the word on that. Brent, you were getting ready to make a comment.
In the interest of the next step and what to do, I've got all the stuff that's been written down here so far right here, as most of you will be leaving. And we're ready over here to write down if there is one of these particular ideas that you would like to get together with other folks on and discuss. Go ahead and leave your information here. And you've already written it down. All you have to do is have attached to that, add in that I'd like to help with Salt Creek, and maybe looking into doing something to market that. Who knows? Whatever it happens to be. So that way, and again, we can review and look and see who was talking about what and all that. But I think it'd be good if you took an interest in one of those particular things, wrote it down, and then we'll get those individuals kind of together. So if we have another big scale meeting, we maybe have smaller committees that can say, hey, here's what we found out when we looked into this.
Also, when you first came in, you were given sheets that said, hey, I think this is the most important thing that was discussed tonight.
Well, they didn't take very many of them.
Okay, so there are some sheets that say that. It would be really helpful to know, and then if there's any additional thoughts or ideas that you had that weren't mentioned tonight, write them down. You can leave your name or you don't have to leave your name. It doesn't matter. But the point is to get the ideas out there. If you've not left your contact info, it would be really helpful if you did. And we'll create a mass email within days. So you'll at least get something right away. And again, I thought this was extremely positive. Any last comments that anyone has, Scott?
Thank you, Kurt.
Okay.
Thank you, Kurt.
One more story. You're getting ready to close. I'll tell you why Farmer City never grew. Every time a new baby is born, 2 men left town.
One more last comment. Scott, we'll let you finish up.
I was just wondering how many people talk to their city councilmen.
Do we even know who they are?
Do you even know who they are?
So the question was, do people talk to their city councilman? And so Scott is one of our city councilmen in Farmer City. And I think the point is, if that's another avenue, if there are issues or questions or suggestions, contact the mayor, contact superintendent of schools, contact some of your city council people. If you're afraid to do that, contact me. I'm harmless completely. So, all right, thank you everybody for coming. I enjoyed it and I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, I was impressed with that.
Yeah.
It was nice.
One thing I think is we're tend to stick together, and so like now my kids aren't as young as it, so I'm not in that world anymore. So we tend to stick together. Section. I'm a senior. I'm not doing that. And she